when you start a company, you don't have to take the template of any other company.
Right.
You can start the company that works for the people.
Exactly.
And so because my kids were already here, and because my colleague Rabia had 2 little ones around the same age, and my colleague Huda, she had 3 little ones, and she's a single parent as well, we were able to build an organization that works for parents who need to prioritize their children's well-being. And isn't that the message of what we're doing at Miry's List?
Hello, and welcome to the Leadership Reality Podcast with your girl, Taiji Charity. This podcast is for C-suite leaders to discuss their experiences and provide insight, encouragement, and inspiration for seasoned and inspiring leaders, offering valuable solutions to today's challenges that will inspire, ignite, and invigorate new and seasoned leaders to walk in their God-given authority with compassion, kindness, and empathy. So sit back, relax, and be prepared to be inspired with today's episode of Leadership Reality. Thank you. Welcome to another episode of Leadership Realities with me, Taiji Charity, where we will be sharing tales from the top. Today's guest is someone who truly understands the power of love in action and community. Miry Whitehill is an author and the executive director of Miry's List, an award-winning nonprofit that supports refugees' families in the United States. She founded the organization in 2016 after meeting a Syrian family resettling in Los Angeles. Her TED Talk, How to Be a Good Neighbor, has reached nearly 1 million viewers. And let me tell you, y'all, it's so good. With a BS in marketing from the University of Maryland and a decade of experience in digital marketing, she is passionate about community engagement and technology. Her first book, Our World is a Family, oh my gosh, I love that title, was published in March 2022 and sold 30,000 copies in its first year. Miry is also a mother of Reuben and Sabo, a 10 and 7-year-old. Miry, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Taiji. So good to be here.
Look, I am so happy to have you because after watching your TED Talk, I was like, that's my kind of people right there.
Oh, that means so much to me. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's talk about this journey. When did you first realize that you were a leader?
So I was thinking about that this morning. I thought you might ask me that. And I think my first leadership opportunity was when I became a big sister.
Oh.
When my little sister Leia was born. And
really? How many years apart?
We're 3 years apart.
Okay.
So I quickly learned that anything I would do, she would be doing right behind me.
Yep.
And as we've grown, we have learned to do that with one another. And I joke about this now. I say that she is my little sister, but she has big sister energy.
I can relate to that.
We are very close. We just live like 6 minutes away from one another.
I'm jealous.
And I know I'm a very, very lucky person. And being a big sister was really something that helped me to understand what it means to have influence over others and how to do that for good. But you know, I didn't learn that at first. First, we got into all kinds of trouble.
Of course.
Sometimes we still do, but overall, you know, she's the one that knows me through and through, sees me, and has the ability to call me out.
I love it.
Isn't that important?
That is so important. Is that your only sibling?
We have 2 brothers.
Okay.
And me and my little sister Leia, we say, oh, they are so lucky we're here. What would they do without us? And I think she's right about that.
You have to help them navigate life.
100%.
Of course.
100%. What would they do without us?
I love that.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about Miry's List. How did it start?
So Miry's List began, like so many wonderful things in life, unexpected and spontaneously. I was on maternity leave with my second baby. This was in 2016.
Sabo, right?
Sabo, yeah.
I love the name.
Thank you. Sabo was about 5 months old, and his older brother Reuben was about 3.5. And I had every intention of returning to my job in a few months.
Which was?
I used to work in advertising. And
okay.
That's what I went to school for. That's what I thought I was most passionate about. And a friend of mine who lived in my neighborhood, called me and said that she had just met a family through her church who had moved to LA as refugees from Syria. Now, their youngest was the same age as Sabo. And so that's why she thought to call me. And she didn't say, hey, Miry, I met this family. Can you start a nonprofit organization? That is not how this went down. She said, do you have any gear that you can donate for this family, for this baby? Because he was about 6 months, and he had been really just in their arms for 6 months. They didn't really have a place to put him down. And that problem, I mean, at that time, it resonated so deeply with me. I could just imagine her exhaustion because it was, that's the universal experience of motherhood.
A baby tied to
parenthood.
You.
Yeah,
Yes.
It's like the thing that almost every parent longs for is that feeling of getting those moments of freedom while knowing that your baby is safe
okay and safe.
Good, and and that is what a little bouncer chair was able to do for this family. And that is how we showed up to their house the following weekend, me and my friend. She brought some diapers and wipes, and I brought a Fisher-Price jumperoo, which I jokingly call this thing the baby operating control center, because you stick the baby in, and then they're surrounded 360 degrees with all the entertainment, and it's for babies who are between the stages of being able to sit up on their own, but they want to be upright.
Yes.
So it's the perfect thing for a baby in that stage, and then they grow out of it really quickly.
Yeah.
So so that was the first instance of me meeting a family who had come to my city of LA as refugees. And once I was there in their apartment, just looking around the room, me and my friend, we both noticed they needed a lot more help than some baby gear. And when I left their house that day, I felt a desire to help them to get their apartment set up. And it wasn't until months after that, after helping this family together with my neighbors and friends through the power of Facebook. It's incredible how quickly word gets out.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Zuckerman.
Thank you for that and only that.
Right.
So, the weeks following that meeting, it was just incredible because, I did this Facebook post of asking my neighbors and friends, hey, can you help me out to help this family get their home set up?
Yeah.
And it was like so many people were just jumping at this opportunity to help this family out. And most of those people never met them.
Right.
And so it was kind of this moment of two things happening almost simultaneously. Myself and my friends beginning to learn about what life is like for families who are coming through the refugee admissions program through our federal government. And then the second thing was learning about how many people want to help refugees.
Yes.
And they don't really know how.
Right.
And so we created the mechanism. And that is what led to Miry's List.
Let me tell you, I just love seeing love in action, where people really do want to make a difference. And there was opportunity and there was a willing heart to step in and make a difference and bring people along with you. And one of the favorite things that I enjoyed about your TED Talk was when you actually made the call to the agency that's over refugees. And you were like, yeah, so this is what we do. And, just kind of, we're already operating in this, although we haven't really fully executed this plan, but to present it as this is what we're going to be doing. And look at you now.
I think the years that I spent in ad sales, I didn't know it at the time, but I was training for this.
Yes. Yes.
You know, it's interesting how you get to look back and see how all of the steps that helped you to gain the
Those
skills.
transferable skills.
100%. And the ability to, quote, fake it till you make it, it did help to make sure that the caseworker who I was talking to that day, she ended up introducing me to the second family that we helped, to reassure her that she was in good hands.
Yes.
And, you know, that was family number 1 and then family number 2. And this week we enrolled family number 1,340 in the program.
Oh my gosh.
And it's been 8 years.
That is so beautiful and so powerful all at the same time. What is your team like? How did you build a team around you? I love the whole neighborhood title, right?
Yeah.
But how did you build this team around you?
Yeah, so the Miry's List team, we call it the dream team. Because we're from everywhere. We're from all over. And about half the people, our staff is 13 people. About half of us are folks who have previously benefited from Miry's List. So have lived experience coming through this system.
Those are the best.
This is so important.
Exactly.
And we come from all different walks of life. I am not the only single parent who works at Miry's List. We come with a shared passion for helping to improve the experience for families who are resettling here. Now, we're just 13 people. You know, how does 13 people help 1,300 families? Well, there's a whole lot more helpers.
I'm sure. Volunteers and community, yes.
So the community around Miry's List, including our board of directors, our advisory board, our hundreds of volunteers, and all of our supporters, we refer to that community as the Hive. So that's the Hive of helpers. And we are able to keep going because we are working together.
Yes.
And that is something that means that we can do something that's very difficult without getting burned out.
I love that. Well, first of all, thank you. 1,300 families, that is amazing. And I love talking to founders who built organizations from the ground up, because I know what that's like, right?
Yep.
What was that journey like for you? How did you, like, who were your board members? Who was your first team of, you know, hired staff? How did you do that?
Yeah, you know, it was really an incredible exercise in
exercise. That's
saying
good.
yes, just saying yes, because all of the people who were part of the original staff, original board, most of whom are still involved, still employed by Miry's List or still supporting Miry's List.
Working in some capacity.
Yes. They came forward and said, how can I help? And, you know, when you look at, you know, what is the important skill that somebody can hold when you're, you know, in that startup phase, like you said, from the ground up, it's brick by brick. You're building the organization. Being able to say yes. And if you have an internal need to do everything, you're going to burn yourself out.
Ooh, tell me about it.
And I mean, we've all done it, and I did it 100 times before.
Yes.
And I think that what was different about this time was that I was not starting with a business plan. I was showing up at someone's house with my baby in the carrier and my toddler in the car seat, meeting new friends, sitting on the floor, having a meal together, talking about what their journey has been like, and then working with my friends to help them out.
Yeah.
It was the most natural thing.
It was a heart journey.
It was so heartfelt, and it still is. And that just made it a very joyful experience. Now, not easy,
right?
But joyful. Like every step of the way, it has been a genuinely loving and memorable and joyful experience. And it has added so much to my life in addition to the other people who have been involved. My life has completely changed since the 8 years ago meeting that first family.
Right.
And in so many ways that are transformative. And I think that is that's what happens when you're surrounded by people who are brave, courageous, willing to see who they really are, willing to live in their truth.
Yeah.
And those are the people who are involved in Miry's List. And those are the qualities of the families that we support as well.
Absolutely love it. Knowing what you know now, would you have done anything differently when you were starting out?
So, you know, when meeting that first family, we weren't planning to start an organization.
Right.
And I think that if somebody had come to me at that day and said, hey, Miry, why don't you start a business around this? My answer would have been no. Because I had 2 kids under age 3 in my care. I was just barely keeping myself together. I couldn't
Take on something else.
No way.
Right.
And so, you know, there was power in my not thinking that through.
Yeah.
And so if I could go back and do something differently, it was a hard time. Yeah. It was a hard time, not because of the work that we were doing to build the organization, but because of what was happening in my life at that time. I was at the end of a marriage and I didn't know it yet. And the day that I met that first family, I was in the mindset that I had to stay. That ending a marriage is a failure. And that mentality, that mentality is taught to us, is taught to women, and it varies from culture to culture. But, you know, I grew up Orthodox Jewish, and in our culture and in many others, this is what we learn.
Yeah.
And then it was through the process of meeting that first family, sitting with them in their home, not that different from this. We didn't have chairs. We were sitting on the floor, but we were just chatting. And I was looking at the way...
And you all didn't speak the same language, right?
No. They speak Arabic. I speak English. I also speak Hebrew, so we were kind of making sense of it. We were also using the Google Translate app.
Okay.
But you don't need to share a language to look at someone and notice the way a husband looks at his wife. There was a lot being communicated that had nothing to do with language.
Yeah.
And then the second family, I saw that again. The third family, I started being in people's homes, seeing what healthy family dynamics looked like.
Yeah.
Eventually, it took me years, but eventually I got to the point where I learned that ending a marriage is not a failure. Staying in a marriage that is unfulfilling is actually the failure.
Interesting.
And for me, it took that change of the way that I saw what was happening in my home to be able to follow in the footsteps of these families I was meeting. These are people who have made life or death decisions for their children's futures. And in some ways, I found myself in a position where I had to be a courageous parent like them.
Wow.
To make a decision I couldn't go back from, with the hope of giving my kids the kind of family healthiness that every kid deserves.
Wow.
And it changed my life.
I can't even imagine taking on all of that with young kids at the same time. I tell people all the time, my little one came after I started the organization, and I'm like, God, you knew what you were doing because you had to birth kids in the spotlight through me before you birthed my little one, Ebony Jewel. Because if Ebony Jewel had come first, I doubt very seriously there would have been a kids in the spotlight because it is a huge responsibility.
Yeah.
And I was older when I had my first kid, and I was in baby heaven. I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so good. Like, you know, I wanted to just hold all the time until I was tired, looking for one of those bouncers. Like, okay, need a break now.
Totally.
But it's managing that and building an organization at the same time, I commend you. And going through just making a decision, a really life-altering decision regarding your marriage.
Yeah.
Like that's a lot.
Thank you.
That's a lot.
I think that, under the umbrella of, is this the right time to start something? There's plenty of people that are thinking about, wanting to start families, or are my kids too young, or they're still home.
Right.
But there was a lot of power in the fact that Miry's List was being built while me and the friends we were building it together, we all had little kids.
Yeah.
Because when you start a company, you don't have to take the template of any other company.
Right.
You can start the company that works for the people.
Exactly.
And so because my kids were already here, and because my colleague Rabia had 2 little ones around the same age, and my colleague Huda, she had 3 little ones, and she's a single parent as well, we were able to build an organization that works for parents who need to prioritize their children's well-being. And isn't that the message of what we're doing at Miry's List? The program is all about prioritizing the well-being of families. So there was a benefit of doing it with our kids there. Yes, it was exhausting.
I'm sure.
But what it means is that it's now been 8 years, and Miry's List is a place where anybody is able to work and able to balance the many demands of parenting and being in a family and prioritizing their kids, and also contributing in a meaningful way to their job.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do your kids fully understand the magnitude of what you're doing and the help that you're providing for these families? Are they able to grasp that yet?
So, they've grown up with Miry's List.
Okay.
This has been part of their lives as long as they can remember. My oldest, Reuben, he was the first volunteer. He would help to categorize the toys. He was 3 years old, and he would just go through donations.
1 for them, 2 for me. 1 for them,
exactly.
3 for me.
Exactly. It was not that different. Or, he would get a new toy, and then we would go through his room and pick out 2 that we could give to another family to kind of make room for things. And so this has been part of their life.
Yeah.
So for them,
That's
it's
so
normal, and it's very different from the way I grew up in terms of diversity of the people in their world.
Yeah.
I was raised in a very homogenous community. There was very little diversity in my world until I went to college. I went to University of Maryland, and then after that, I moved to Tel Aviv, and I was living in an extremely diverse community. For my kids, that's not the situation. They have friends from all over the world.
That's good.
They know what languages are spoken in Afghanistan. They've experienced food from all these different cultures. And I think that is something that I am really happy to have provided them through this work, and hopefully something that they'll be able to look back on and be really proud of, and to continue that in their life as they grow.
No doubt. The seed is there, and apparently it's being watered continuously. So I absolutely love that. What's the future for Miry's List? Like, are we going to continue, or do you have a broader vision for where you want to go?
So we just had our 8th birthday this year.
Happy birthday!
Thank you. Thank you so much. And, when Miry's List began, the day I met that first family, Barack Obama was still president.
Okay.
And so in the last 8 years, we have seen the full spectrum of what the United States system for refugees looks like under different government administrations. And here is what we've learned. No matter who is in the White House, no matter what the immigration policy is of the federal government, there will always be a need for community-based systems to support refugees when they get here.
Yes.
And that is what we know to be true. We know it to be true based on the over 5,800 people who we've supported in the last 8 years, but also we know it to be true from the incredible number of studies that have been done that look at the benefits for communities at large when this kind of integration work is happening. So that is what we see for the future. More community-based pipelines of support for refugees, whether it's through Miry's List or one of the other hundreds of community organizations doing this work across the country. You know, we are together in this vision for a United States resettlement experience that is positive, that arriving to the United States as a refugee can mark the end of a refugee journey and the beginning of an incredible life of fulfilling contributions here in the United States.
Hopes and dreams, right?
Giving and receiving.
Yes.
That's what we all want. And it's
what
good
we all want.
For every single person in the community. It benefits every kid in the classroom, every kid on the playground, and that's what we see for the future.
What would you say to those people who don't necessarily see the benefits? What would you say to them?
You gotta look harder.
That's good.
Yeah. If you don't see the benefits, you're just not looking.
That's good.
And every single person in this country has benefited from immigration, whether or not your family has a lived experience with it or not.
Right.
And that's a fact.
Yeah.
And that won't change. This is our world.
And when you're looking through just the eyes of love, I always tell people, I just have this belief system based, I guess, on biblical principles of just really treating people the way I would want to be treated.
That's so true.
It seems like just a very basic principle.
Yeah.
Where we all want to live the American dream.
Yeah.
We all want to be heard. We all want to be seen. We all want to be validated. We all want to feel like we're making a contribution. And we all get this joy of elevating other people. Sometimes we don't know it, until you start elevating other people, right? But there's a healing that really does have to take place, I think, just in our country as a whole.
Yeah.
And I think walking in love is the beginning of that healing, and modeling people like you is the beginning of that healing.
It's interesting, like, we get so much positive reinforcement coming our way because so many people are passionate about welcoming immigrants.
Yes.
Also, we get a number of people who come with challenges and questions. And what I think is really interesting about the dialogue that we're able to have with somebody who perhaps they're uninformed about the way the system works for refugees or immigrants in the United States, and perhaps they are passionate about something else, and they feel that all resources should be put into the issue that they're most passionate about. I've had some really interesting conversations with people who come from all different walks of life and see this from all different angles. And the thing that we all have in common is, just like you said, we all want a sense of belonging.
Yes.
We all have something to give. We all want to contribute. And the people who care about the needs of veterans here in our country, and the people who care about the needs of our unhoused neighbors, it's coming from the same place in the heart as the many people who care about the needs of refugees and immigrants. And so we are all here tackling the same issue of inequity, just from different angles. And I think that that's really beautiful, and I think it's important because we're not at odds. This is very much the same boat.
Right.
Yeah.
Painting a beautiful tapestry of just hope. I love it. That's what community is. That's what community is. I want to know real quickly, who are some of the leaders you admire?
I was thinking about this before our interview, and I have an incredible network of leaders and mentors around me that have inspired me in so many different ways. And I have 3 that are really top of mind this week.
Okay.
But there's just so many incredible people out there who have supported me and mentored me. Dr. Susie Ishmael.
Okay.
She is a nonprofit founder and a CEO as well, and she runs a community clinic supporting mental health and well-being for refugees and immigrants. And she's absolutely brilliant. And the thing that inspires me so much about her work at Cornerstone Collective is the huge amount of heart and love that she pours into every single part of this organization. And she ran a training actually for the staff at Miry's List. It was about cultural competency and supporting mental health for immigrant communities. And it's just incredible to learn about something that is so technical and clinical, but through this lens of loving community care.
Yes.
And she is a leader who just leads with so much love. And I just really want to
It's like a magnet,
be
right?
like her. Yes. I'm like, you have so much power in that big heart. And it really comes through. Another leader who I really admire is Jessica Santana. She's the founder and CEO of America on Tech. And they are challenging economic inequity through providing tech resources and tech training to kids. And she's incredible. I had the opportunity to meet her at a conference a couple of years ago, and she said something to me that has stuck with me. She said that when you are a founding CEO, you need to be planning for who's going to be leading next.
Ooh, the succession planning. Yes.
She said the entire time, if you're not succession planning,
yes,
there cannot be a future for your organization unless you're succession planning. And when she said that, it really planted a seed inside me because, we're so busy. We're so busy starting the organization and thinking of all the details and spinning all the plates. But it was such a solid reminder that, yes, we envision this long future for Miry's List, so we need to be succession planning, not just for my role, but for every single position at Miry's List.
Absolutely.
Who are the next generations of leaders who are going to be taking the torch and running with it to make it even better?
Yes.
And that really stuck with me. She's incredible, and I highly recommend following her on Instagram. She's amazing.
I love that.
And then the third person who is really rocking my world right now is Esther Perel. And I had...
I'm learning about new people.
Oh my gosh, she's incredible. I read several of her books, but I just saw her. She did a tour where she basically had a live show. She's a psychotherapist.
Okay.
She was like Bono on stage. It was like sold out theater, and she's a relationship and sex therapist. And
that's an interesting combination.
Oh my gosh, she's so brilliant, and she's the child of Holocaust survivors, and she brings so much insight and brilliance and understanding of trauma into this work of relational therapy. And the thing that inspires me most about Esther is that she's very brilliant, but a lot of people are brilliant. Why is she so special? She takes her brilliance and then she puts it into so many different formats because she understands that everybody learns differently. And so you can learn from her through her books. You can learn from her through her online videos. You can learn from her she made a game. There's a card game you can play and learn psychotherapy from her through this relational therapy through Esther Perel. She does these live shows. She has a podcast called Where Should We Begin? And I love how she has created so many ways for people to find and connect with the important work that she does. And that really inspires me because I feel like the work that we do at Miry's List is so important. And I think about, okay, how do I create more pipelines for people to find their way that is unique to what inspires them, that is unique to their learning style. And that ultimately is how we'll be able to reach a lot of people. And I think Esther Perel is a great example of that.
We're going to be looking up all three of those leaders, okay?
Please do,
this sounds amazing. They sound amazing. So how would your team describe you?
How would my team describe me? Okay. I think my team would describe me as caring, as a good mom. I think they would maybe describe me as chill. I
I
try
like
to
it.
I try to have a very chill mentality.
Yeah.
You know, when you're the CEO, whether you like it or not, you're going to be setting the tone.
Right.
And so I really try to remember myself that we can only give of what we have.
That's good.
You know, I've burned myself out so many times in so many other jobs. And so that pacing is so important.
Yeah.
And then I know that everything I do, I'm demonstrating that and demonstrating the culture.
Yes.
So I try to keep that in mind. So I think that's how my team would describe me. And we have a untraditional work structure at Miry's List.
Okay.
So we don't have a hierarchical org chart. Our org chart is actually a wheel shape, and we have different departments, and all of us are working together and in small groups. So that means that, you know, imagine a wheel. A wheel is turning. So
I'm thinking about the emotions wheel.
yes,
Is it like that?
Okay.
Okay.
Well, so on a wheel, there's always one part that's touching the ground.
Right.
And at that moment, that's the most important part of the wheel.
Okay.
But the rest of the wheel has to be there for the integrity of the whole thing to work.
Yes.
And that is how Miry's List is structured. As we move through the day, that wheel is turning. You know, we're going to be responding to an emergency with one of our families. At that moment, Family Services Director, Huda Abu Garbe, she is the most important person in the wheel because she is on the phone with the dad who needs critical support for his kid. And then the next day, it will be something else. Or the next hour even, it'll be something else.
That is so creative.
And that means that everybody at Miry's List is important to mission delivery.
I absolutely love that. You have to share that wheel with us.
I absolutely will.
I love that. I love that. I'm just picturing it in my head, and I'm also thinking about, you know, my organization and how we structure things, and I like that. Just, you know, right now, this is the most important thing. Because sometimes you feel like everything is important. Well, I do. I tend to like, everything is important.
Yeah.
Wait, we had a tissue in the bathroom? Wait, what? How do we get out of tissue in the bathroom? Like, we got to get tissue in the bathroom. You know, everything. And I'm really big on presentations. I like for people to come and feel like, wow, like I feel like I'm at home. I like my friends to feel like family and my family to feel like friends.
Yeah.
You know, that's important. And I like to be able to present that way. So everything. And then when it comes to the youth we serve, like that's just always the top priority in the work that we do. But I love the whole wheel concept.
I think that something that was really difficult for me in previous jobs, and I worked usually at larger corporations that had, you know, traditional hierarchical styles of management, that there was, whether it was deliberately said or not, there is this expectation of a compartmentalization of the individual.
Yeah.
That when you come to work, you're there to work. You're
Right.
not a mother.
Right.
You're not a spouse. You're not a volunteer. You're not someone who belongs to a church. You're there to do your job, and that's it.
Right.
And in my experience, being in roles like that, it becomes so exhausting because you have to change your hats, and the process of changing a hat is its own exhausting experience. But you end the day feeling like a person who's scattered, and you're all these different parts just sitting next to one another, parallel play. And that's something that we have been really intentional about in the building of Miry's List, not just like hiring, but also the creation of policy that supports the fact that we don't want you to compartmentalize who you are. We want you to be your big bad self here.
Ooh.
And that means that it's been 8 years, and a lot of the people who were there in the first year are still
there.
here, still with us. Yeah.
This is so good. We can unpack so much of all of that. I love that. You seem to be a very thought leader and a very thoughtful leader.
Thank you.
And I absolutely love that, because valuing the team. I tell my team all the time that teamwork is the best work, right?
Absolutely.
When we all understand we're here for the mission and the impact. I often call myself an impact junkie, because
Yeah.
I am just, it's something about being able to meet a need, fulfill a need, and knowing that I have contributed to just the transformation of someone's life in some way or another. And we did it together as a team. It's not an I thing, it's a team thing.
100%.
100%, right? And it's what community looks like. And bringing in others who also have a like heart and a like mind to serve is just, we sleep good when we think about, the impact.
Yeah.
But then sometimes we can't sleep because we think about the needs, right?
100%.
It's that going back and forward, right?
Yeah. It's, the challenge of working in a direct service capacity, which I'm sure you can relate to this,
Yes.
is you have to surrender to this
Yes.
realization that you will never be able to meet the need.
Yeah.
No matter how good we do this, no matter how much money we raise, how many people we hire, there will always be a need that is bigger than our capacity. That's why we're here, but also it's very troubling.
Yeah.
It feels frustrating, right?
Yeah.
And we essentially have to walk around the world and do our work while knowing that reality. And that's very challenging.
Oh, the word of the day is surrender. That's so good. Thank you. And it sounds scary at the same time.
Yeah.
But that's the reality. We really do have to surrender. We really do.
That is something that we can do as leaders. I think that the pressure on the leader to have it all figured out, thought through, we have a plan for everything, backup plan, plan B, everything's in control.
Right.
That's a facade.
Right.
And it's a delusion.
That's an even better way of putting it. It is a delusion. Right.
And so if we can demonstrate that we recognize how out of control we're going to do our best, we're going to be strategic, we're going to come to work with a cup full, and we're going to do our best to help as many people as we can.
Yeah.
But also, we don't completely control everything. There are so many outside forces. And to demonstrate being at peace with that, to be in surrender with that, is a way that we can be a role model for the rest of the people. Not only the people that work at the organization or the company, but we're inviting others.
Absolutely.
We're inviting others. Let's make this realistic.
Miry, I can talk to you for hours. I can tell you right now, I can kick my shoes off and we can go all the way in.
Yeah.
But I'm having to wrap this up. But before I wrap this up, you have some events coming up. I would love for you to share those events that you have coming up.
We do. So every November, we host our annual Afghan Friendsgiving dinner.
Ooh.
So it is a holiday-themed dinner with a traditional Afghan menu. And that is going to be happening this November. And if people want to be notified about the event, they should sign up. Put your email on the bottom of our website, myryslist.org. And we are also running our year-end campaign that's called Friendsgiving with Miry's List. And
like
people
that.
can help us to support 350 more families next year by making a contribution to the campaign, or even starting up your own fundraising page and being part of the crowdfunded effort with us.
I like that.
Yeah.
Peer-to-peer fundraising.
100%. So that website is give.myryslist.org.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll make sure we put that in the chat as well. Guys, I know, and I know you know, that you've heard so much in this interview that could really, really help you on your leadership journey. So I hope you have taken some copious notes today, because I'm going back to watch, because I've heard so much that I can just apply in my own leadership journey. So that is it for today. This is always the hardest part for me, is having to end such a great interview. But thank you so much for being here. This was absolutely wonderful.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely wonderful. So I need you all to do those 3 magical words: like, share, and subscribe, because we want to share this story and others with new leaders, inspiring leaders, seasoned leaders, anybody that's on their leadership journey. I believe there's a leadership in all of us, but sometimes we just need the tools and the resources and the information to help us tap into it. And I believe this interview will help you do just that. So until next time, have an amazing leadership journey. Bye now. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is our show for today. I hope you were inspired and you gained some valuable nuggets that will help you to become a better leader and to walk in your God-given authority. Bye, until next time.